You know that quiet, slightly guilty pleasure you feel when the villain finally wins? Not the cartoonish ones, the smart ones. The ones who outthink everyone, break every rule, and still walk away looking composed. You tell yourself you're only watching for the story, but part of you is leaning forward. Part of you is satisfied. That feeling isn't random, and it says more about you than most people are comfortable admitting. In the next few minutes, I'll show you the real psychological reasons your brain keeps rooting for the people who are supposed to lose, and what that pull is actually protecting you from. Here's the part almost no one talks about. You've spent most of your life being told to be good, be polite, be reasonable. Don't make things harder than they need to be. So when a character on screen refuses all of that and still wins, something in you exhales. This is the first mechanism, vicarious power. When you feel small, constrained, or constantly managed in real life, your brain looks for a safe place to feel the opposite. Watching a villain take control gives you a temporary hit of dominance without any real-world risk. You don't want to become them. You want to feel, for a few minutes, what it's like not to ask permission. But there's a deeper layer. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the parts of yourself you've been taught to reject. Ambition that feels selfish, anger that feels unacceptable, the desire to stop being so careful. The villain often carries those exact traits without apology. So when they succeed, a forbidden part of you feels seen. That is why certain villains feel strangely personal. They're not just characters. They're the version of you that stopped apologizing. Here's where it gets more precise. Studies on narrative engagement show that audiences rate highly competent characters as more compelling, even when those characters are immoral. We are drawn to effectiveness. The hero often hesitates, second guesses, or follows rules. The villain decides. In a world that constantly asks you to wait, to be patient, to consider everyone else's feelings first, pure decisiveness feels like oxygen. Your brain isn't celebrating cruelty. It's celebrating competence without friction. There's also something called moral licensing at work. When you spend your day being responsible, restrained, and good, your mind keeps a quiet tally. Watching a villain break every social contract without consequence gives you a temporary release valve. It's the psychological equivalent of letting off steam. You get to taste rule-breaking in a space where no one gets actually hurt, including your self-image. That is why the satisfaction can feel so clean. No real guilt attaches, because the story ends and the consequences stay fictional. Now the part that usually stays hidden. Many people who strongly root for villains are not secret sociopaths. They are often people who feel over-controlled, underpowered, or chronically unseen in their own lives. The villain becomes a temporary protest, a way of saying, I notice how much of myself I have to shrink every day. This doesn't make the attraction unhealthy. It makes it diagnostic. So when you feel that pull toward the character who refuses to play fair, try asking a different question. Not, what's wrong with me for liking this? But, what part of me feels most restricted right now? The answer is usually more useful than the guilt. Here's the practical takeaway. Next time you notice yourself rooting harder for the villain than the hero, pause for 3 seconds. Name the trait you're enjoying, the decisiveness, the refusal to explain, the quiet power. Then ask, where in my actual life am I not allowed to use even a small version of that? That single question turns a guilty pleasure into useful information. You were never broken for liking the people who win by breaking the rules. You were simply looking for a feeling your everyday life doesn't easily give you. If understanding the quieter motives behind your own reactions is useful, you'll want the next one. Which specific villain trait do you notice yourself pulled toward most? And if you liked this video, can I get a whoop whoop and maybe a subscribe? Thanks. See you guys in the next one.